Strip away the bullet trains, the robotics, and the neon-lit expanse of modern Tokyo, and you are left with a rugged, volcanic archipelago. Early Japan was a harsh, mist-covered environment where natural forces completely dictated human life. How did a geographically isolated group of prehistoric hunter-gatherers, cut off from the massive empires of the Asian mainland, survived to become one of the wealthiest and most technologically advanced superpowers on Earth? If you look closely at Japanese history, it is not a steady, uninterrupted march toward progress. Instead, it is a recurring pattern. Periods of extreme isolation and violent internal fragmentation are repeatedly broken by sudden, total phases of reorganization. The record suggests that when pushed to the absolute brink of destruction, this society possesses a unique capacity to dismantle its own deeply held structures and rebuild them from the ground up. Roughly 12,000 years ago, warming climates caused sea levels to rise. Land bridges connecting Japan to the Asian mainland vanished underwater, forcing the native Jomon people to adapt entirely to a coastal island existence. Millennia later, a new wave of migration brought the Yayoi people from the Korean peninsula. They carried with them specific, highly effective technologies that the islands lacked: wet rice farming and advanced metalworking in copper and iron. Rice cultivation required strict organization. The population abandoned nomadic hunting to build settled, hierarchical villages, engineering complex moats, dams, and defensive wooden walls to protect and irrigate their vital crops. Within a few centuries, the loosely gathered tribes of the islands had reorganized into a settled society built on the immediate adoption of mainland science. This transition proved when a more effective way to live arrived on their shores, the population was willing to reorganize their entire lives around it. In the 13th century, that adaptability faced a massive external threat. The Mongol Empire, which had already conquered much of Asia and Europe, launched a massive armada toward Japan, equipped with explosive weapons and organized military tactics. Fierce resistance from local warriors met the invading fleets on the beaches of Kyushu, but the decisive blow came from the sky. Two separate, devastating typhoons struck the Mongol ships, drowning thousands. The Japanese named this the kamikaze, the divine wind. Surviving the Mongol invasions deeply influenced the nation's direction. It entrenched a powerful, disciplined military class, the samurai, and cemented the strict, unyielding moral code of Bushido into the fabric of Japanese society. Following centuries of brutal internal civil wars, the Tokugawa shogunate unified the country in the early 1600s. To maintain control and stop the spread of foreign influence, they executed a radical defense strategy, sakoku. They locked down the borders, restricting almost all foreign contact for 250 years. This extreme isolation incubated a highly unified, peaceful national culture. But while Japan perfected its traditional arts, it remained unaware of the Industrial Revolution that was arming the Western world with steam and steel. That illusion of safety shattered in 1853. American naval officer Commodore Matthew Perry arrived in Tokyo Bay with a fleet of steam-powered black ships, belching dark smoke and heavily armed with modern cannons. The technological mismatch was glaring. The Japanese military quickly realized that traditional samurai swords, archery, and feudal tactics could not compete with heavy industrial artillery. Resisting the Americans would mean total annihilation. In response, leaders initiated the Meiji Restoration. They dismantled the ancient samurai class, stripped them of their privileges, and restored political power to the emperor. The visual transformation was stark. The emperor himself adopted Western military uniforms, signaling a deliberate shift toward modern industrial styling. Lightning-speed industrialization followed. The new government laid down railway lines, mandated nationwide education, imported foreign engineering experts, and replaced the elite samurai with a modern, drafted citizen army. To avoid becoming another colonized victim of Western empires, Japan dismantled its own deeply revered feudal system. They absorbed Western industrial methods in decades, achieving a level of modernization that took Europe a century to complete. This new industrial and military might fueled a dangerous ambition. Japan decided that to compete globally, it needed an empire of its own. They launched aggressive military campaigns into Korea, Manchuria, and mainland China to secure the coal, iron, and territory required to feed their growing factories. Western powers viewed this expansion as a direct threat. The United States retaliated by enforcing strict economic embargoes, cutting off Japan's vital supply of oil and steel. Faced with economic collapse, the Japanese military launched a preemptive strike on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor in December 1941. The Pacific War expanded rapidly, but the turning point arrived at the Battle of Midway in 1942. American forces decoded Japanese naval plans and sank 4 major aircraft carriers in a single engagement, shattering Japan's naval advantage. As the war turned against them and resources dwindled, the military resorted to fatalistic extremes. They revived the concept of the divine wind, deploying kamikaze suicide pilots to crash planes directly into Allied ships, a mobilization of the warrior ethos towards self-destruction. The very traits that saved Japan in the 19th century, rapid industrialization and military pride, were pushed into extreme overreach. By 1945, relentless bombing campaigns had left the empire's major cities incinerated and in ruins. For the first time in its recorded history, Japan was occupied by a foreign power. The United States military, led by General Douglas MacArthur, took control of the devastated country to oversee its reconstruction. The old regime was systematically dismantled. High-ranking military officials were arrested, the imperial army was entirely disbanded, and Emperor Hirohito was forced to publicly renounce his status as a living god. Sweeping democratic reforms were written into the fabric of the recovering nation. Large agricultural estates were broken up and redistributed to small farmers, and women were finally granted equal rights and the ability to vote. The most profound change came in the new 1947 Constitution. Under Article 9, Japan explicitly renounced war as a sovereign right. They became the first major nation in the world to constitutionally abandon the right to maintain a military force for aggressive warfare. Japan's history is a record of these extreme pivots. By 1947, the same culture that once isolated itself for centuries had integrated democracy, granted suffrage to millions, and formally renounced the use of force, demonstrating that a society survives by matching the scale of the world's demands with its own willingness to change.